If you are interested in picking up the new Hot Toys Batman Returns, the quote 2.0 as many are calling it, this is a video that maybe you want to watch if you are on the fence and have the current version and you're uncertain on whether or not you should upgrade to the new one. This is Mr. Mom Collectibles, and in this video, we are going to be taking a look at a comparison between the Batman Returns, the 1.0, which you see here, and the new version that has been announced by Hot Toys. Now, I actually just got this a few days ago as part of the 2-pack fire sale as expected because people are dumping the old one, and Jeremy Costa was able to grab this for me at a great price. The only issue is that the stock cape was literally destroyed and I replaced it with a Jackson cape. So what we're going to be doing is doing a comparison breakdown of this figure, and I'll be putting up reference photos that I have of the new one and kind of going over my thoughts on what changes that I see personally. And then, of course, when we get the figures in hand, when it gets announced and released, we will be doing that as well. So let's take a look at it. All right, guys, so here we have the Batman Returns. Once again, this is the first version from the 2-pack. I took the cape off just because it's not using the stock cape, obviously, so it doesn't make sense to compare. And as I said, this has been a really exciting time if you're a Batman fan, and we're going to be taking a look at this figure, basically dissecting the pieces and, you know, the things that now that I have the first one in hand, I want to go over some things that are standing out. And obviously the big standout piece of the new one is going to be the display and that back glider, which does not come with the original. And like I said, if you're someone that just has the Batman Returns figure, because that was sold as one piece, and then you had the Bruce Wayne Batman combo, that's something that, you know, you're gonna have to think about whether or not you want to upgrade. But we're gonna start looking at some stuff. So right off the bat, this is one of the poses that we saw here that the original that I decided to replicate, which was him with his hands up holding the glider, but there's nothing to hold. But as you can see there, creasing and everything is identical. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the suit lines to see if anything's changed on the mold. I do notice the gauntlets are different. They do look black, like a little more shinier, but if you notice around the wrist, there's definitely a different mold that they used for the actual gauntlets. So that is different compared to the old one. And also the gloves look a little bit different. They just might be updated. Also, this figure that I have is over 10 years old, so the color could have faded a little bit. As with the 89, there was definitely a color difference. The next thing I'm noticing here, I'm just looking at the actual pattern of the, the pec area, the actual ab section. This suit is drastically different compared to the 89. They went with a more Art Deco feel compared to the first version. They were very much inspired by more Art Deco armored look, and that was the intent for the second one. Now the belt, this is probably the one issue that I think I saw. The belt definitely looks like, to me, on the new one, they just repurposed the 89. It's much more yellow, whereas the old one is definitely a little more darker. And if you look at those canisters there, they definitely are moved up more to the front and closer together, just like the 89. So I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately they recycled the 89 belt. And also the color looks a little bit different, whereas the logo and the belt on the old one is more of like a amber yellow, as with the new one being a much more bright yellow. Once again, I think it's possibly a recycle from the 89 belt, and then they just put it right on the new one. And so that's another thing that I noticed as well. I'm not comparing this to actual reference photos of the suit. That is going to be when I have the suit in hand. This is just comparing the old figure to the new one and what changes that I've seen. So keep that in mind. So even if that's accurate, I'm just looking at the changes that were made from figure to figure, not comparing it to the studio. Now here we are looking at the thighs. Once again, I'm just trying to look at the pattern in like the suit material and the mold itself to see if anything has drastically changed. Everything really is standing out. It looks identical as expected. This is a figure I really hope Hot Toys actually doesn't make any major changes to. The bodysuit itself is actually very clean, very simple, and it should be a very easy, a remold. But, look what happened to the 89. And I know that is concerning a lot of collectors, especially those who passed on the 89. They're hoping that Hot Toys delivers the 92 as promised. And so, like I said, just looking at the pattern, the knees, the boots, all that looks really same. It's also very simple. There's not a lot of detail going on. As I said, the gauntlets are different. The belt looks like it's different. And as you can see on the old one, it's a very simple design. There's really not a lot going on with it compared to the 89, which had a multi-layers of pieces. This one is just a simple design. Now we're looking at the actual sculpt itself. This is another thing that I think has definitely changed. Obviously, the faceplates are updated because the Bruce Wayne head sculpt has changed as well. So in doing so, I think that also altered the cowl itself. So when you look up the picture of the cowl here, a couple of things that stand out to me. The actual texture of it looks a little bit different. That could be the lighting of the photo, but definitely if you look between the eyes, it's a little bit wider on the new one, and also the brow is more emphasized. The eyes look a little bit darker, the makeup, things like that. They're small details, but I definitely think that they do change the overall look, and also the jawline. Because they're using a new faceplate, I wouldn't, the jawline and even around the mask looks a little bit different, just a little more updated. I've noticed that as well. So they're minor changes, but I still think that I think they're just enhancing something that I think is already really great. This figure is pretty damn perfect in its own right. The other thing that I did notice is, compared to some of the photos, is the spacing on the bat emblem. The bat emblem itself compared to where the neck is, and you'll see what I mean by that. It looks a little bit, it sits a little bit lower, I feel like, just from the photos that I see. But the cowl itself definitely looks like it's an updated cowl. There's no way that they could use the old mold with new faceplates, despite even how minor changing the faceplates are. They would have to have done a new sculpt, I think, for the cowl itself. And this is what I'm referring to. There's the emblem there. Is a little bit different of a color. It's, like I said, a little more of like an amber yellow compared to bright. And I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like the logo, the placement's a little bit lower compared to, if you look at the spacing of the collarbone and the top of the logo, I feel like it's a little bit closer together on the old one versus the new one. The logo looks like it sits a little bit further down. And now looking at the Bruce Wayne sculpt, there really isn't much of a comparison here. It is a ground up build. Yixie's the one who did the actual sculpt of the Bruce Wayne. So it is a ground up brand new head sculpt, but nevertheless, I don't also want to discredit the old one. It still holds up for being 10 years old, if not more. But it just, when you think sometimes, how can they make something better? Well, Hot Toys did that. The Bruce Wayne on the new one, it just looks absolutely phenomenal. And that being said, I wanted to also look at the battle damage on the cowl itself. So here is the battle damage that came with the old one, and you would slip this over the body and then put the head sculpt on. And comparing this as well, once again, I think this is a new sculpt. I'm just looking at elements like the color of the logo, the emblem, and actually the pattern itself. If you notice the collarbone, like the neck area, it looks like there's actually more of it on the new one, if that makes sense. The right, like around where the collarbone area is, and also it looks like there's more of it on the new one. So it looks like a brand new sculpt. It looks like they still followed the patterns, but they just did some revisions to it, which, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that, just updating it as well. So that's what I mean. Like, that space there looks like it's closer together on the old one versus the new one. It looks like it's definitely wider apart. And then when you sit the sculpt in, the only thing I don't know about the new one is if it's a two-piece system like this where it slips over. I can't see them not changing it, but because the Bruce Wayne has the eye rolling system, they might have changed something on it, but I'm assuming they're just going to use the same system where the cowl slips over the body, and then you just pop the head on. The display photos don't show you anything of that nature, so I don't think it's one piece. I think they just replicated the same system. But I mean, the old one still holds up in its own right. It's still fantastic. I'm still amazed by it looking at it in person, and it's one of those where I really hope, really hope Hot Toys it does the right thing and it sticks to these improvements, because if this is what we're getting based on the new photos, then collectors are going to be really happy they waited for this one. And if you're someone that passed on the original 89 or even the new 89 and you're hoping just to have one in your collection, this very well may be the ultimate Michael Keaton. Now, if you're someone that has the 2-pack, I personally don't recommend selling the 2-pack, just because I don't think there's a lot of people that are really going to go for it. But the other thing is, I think that there's enough differences display wise. You can't keep this figure in this pose permanently. The way that it's stretched, the arms just don't hold this position. So realistically, people may pose it with the glider just for photo purposes, but there's no way this figure can keep this pose permanently. You're going to cause damage to the suit, and the arms just can't hold the pose. So for me, the difference is going to be basically the Michael Keaton head sculpt. Because this is a single figure, you know, you could display this with the battle damage and then have the original one clean, or you could display this Batman clean and then have your battle damaged one original. So I think that it's a shame not to have that Bruce Wayne sculpt displayed one way or another. So I think it's worth it to honestly keep the old one, but I can understand if people don't want multiples in their collection. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I think that there's just and I'm not coming from a place of a fanatic Batman fan, which I admit that I am. I'm just trying to look at this subjectively with the display base and everything. I think that there's enough here in terms of display options for collectors that you could pull off two really, really, really nice displays, either side by side, or if you have different areas you want to put these in, that I don't think it's worth getting rid of your old one. And if you're someone that wants to upgrade and you're concerned about it, I think there's enough here going on for you as a collector that this is just an amazing piece. It's something that we wanted for a while, and Hot Toys delivered on that. So let me know your thoughts below. I'm just, like you said, these are just some photos of what it looks like from Secret Base on display. And I think it just looks incredible. It just is a matter of, will Hot Toys deliver the final product and we don't get an 89 incident all over again. But drop a like on the video. Please consider subscribing to the channel if this is in fact your first time and you like this and more Batman related content definitely on the way. Until then, this is Mr. Mom Collectibles saying take care, and I will see you guys in the next video.